Hey everyone. So in the last unit, we have been talking about creating contour drawings. We did some continuous line contour drawings like this, some blind contour drawings, and then some more resolved contour drawings. From this more resolved one, after we had created some gestures of it and really understood the parts to the whole, we then took this and created a trace and transfer of it where we put vine charcoal on the back and then made some fancy coloring books that look like this. So we could try different styles or different kinds of mark making just to kind of get the hang of it. So I thought I'd show you a little bit of a different method today, similar to what a lot of people use on softwares like Illustrator or Photoshop or Procreate. I was going to show it to you on my iPad. Maybe I'll show it to you in the end. I accidentally started an update. So we'll show you this in a minute. But the idea here in a software is that often an artist or an illustrator or designer will put a photo on the first layer, and then they put another layer on top of it. They draw on top of it, and then they throw the photo away, resulting in the illustration. So in an observational drawing class like this, sometimes that would be frowned upon because we're trying to learn how three-dimensional space turns into two-dimensional space in an observational way. But this is still a method that a lot of artists use outside of that drawing one space. So I thought I'd show it to you. It's really fun, it's fairly fast, and pretty rewarding. And I thought it was time, since we've been doing all these hard seeing exercises, to do something a little different. So we'll do a trace and transfer, and then we're gonna, I want you to go into our Pinterest boards and look at our mark making studies. I'm gonna put together a Pinterest board that has to do with this trace and transfer method, so you can look at some different kinds of marks. And once we get our photo traced onto our nicer drawing paper, I want you to investigate those fun mark making ideas and see if you can come up with a cool illustration. I'm kind of inspired by this artist, so I might use some of this kind of faster kind of contour searching lines that this artist uses. Okay, so how we're going to do this is I want you to find a picture of a person. And I'm going to use a self-portrait because I don't have to have permission. If you use a photo of someone famous or something from the internet, you have to get permission. And I can talk about appropriation, plagiarism, and all those things in a later date. But my vote at this point is just to use a picture that you took, and then you don't have to worry about it. So I had two photos. I wasn't sure which one I wanted to use, so I was going to kind of lay them out and see. But notice what I did in my phone, or I guess I did it in iPhoto on my computer. I turned them into black and white, and I really upped the contrast and the shadows and tried to make them a little more drastic, if you will. I think I'm going to do this one, but I'm not sure. I was looking at composition earlier and thinking about maybe having this up high and then letting the mark making really kind of fiddle out. I thought about if I did it lower over here, and then I could like have the mark making trail over here in some kind of way, like I was thinking of something in the future, or I was thinking of something in the past based on the placement. But then I was thinking maybe put this one right in the middle and just have a kind of more sturdy kind of image. So I'll start with this one, and then maybe I'll move back into this one at a later time. I'm not sure. Okay, so I'm going to start with my vine charcoal, and I have my fancier mixed media board here, which is this stuff that I'm using. And I'm going to put vine charcoal on the back. I'm kind of holding this up to the light, and I'm going to mark out where the image is, so I don't have to cover the whole thing in charcoal. So this is what we did with our, I had used my mint sprig, but you might have used a different complicated single object. And this is like our lo-fi trace and transfer method. They make transfer paper that you can buy at the art store or the craft store that works well too, but this is just a cheap method, and we have the vine. Okay, I'll put that away. I'm going to shake this off a little. Okay. So I think I want it like right in the middle, just because of the kind of sturdy centered quality. I think if I had used this one, I would have shifted the composition somewhere else. We'll talk about composition more pretty soon. So I'm going to tape this down so that it doesn't move on me. I'm going to think about, like, if this is the center of the picture plane, vertical and horizontal, do I like where it's at? I think so. I think this is maybe the center. Maybe I'll move it down so my eyes are more in the middle. No, I liked it a little higher. Okay, tape it down. Okay, and then when I do the trace and transfer, I can do it really, really fast and kind of loose, or I can go really slow. Later, I'm going to talk about a method like this when we start talking about value and rendering things to look realistic. But I kind of want this one to be a little looser and free-flowing. So I'm going to plan to be fairly thoughtful when I get into the some of the features, but then the rest I might do a little more gestural. So here we go. Put my glasses on. So like here where I'm doing my eyelashes, starting with something dark, this is kind of in opposition to how we've been starting our other drawings, which is start with the like the measuring and kind of getting the relationships to the parts to the whole. But since I'm just kind of making a coloring book here, doesn't matter so much how or where I start. I am trying to get a little bit of the value information in here, like these little reflections. Kind of like our first drawing that we did. Okay, here are my kids in the background. They're playing on the play structure in the backyard there. Okay, before I go much further, I'm just make sure it showed up. Yeah. Oh, and I'm being pretty careful not to push too hard in other places. Go. We're gonna really lightly try to get this information. There's not a lot. I probably could have done this a little darker in the photo. Might need a little more info there. Get the other eye. I'm just kind of trusting the information in the photos. So I don't really see individual eyelashes, so I'm not going to really put them in there at this point. I'll go a little faster once I get moving into the other parts here. Okay, so I'll move through the hairline. I'm going to make it a little bumpy where it goes through here so it doesn't look so much like a hair helmet on like a Lego. It will a little bit, but do some fun mark making with it. Get this little bit here. Oops, I keep breaking my pencil. It's all said and done. It's like I'm making this little coloring book, but it's not taking me too terribly long. Okay, so now I've got the mouth and the hair, and when I get into that area, I am gonna try not to think of it as hair as much as I'm gonna think of it as like lights and darks. You can even see it here. I'm kind of tracing a little bit of the shadow line on the face here. I'll come down into this area. And if I don't have information, I'll kind of skip it. So I'm going to try not to just like fully over or fully outline everything if the info isn't there. Okay, let's see what we got. It's getting there. I'm gonna pull this little bit of this neck down. I'm not gonna draw the whole lot down here because I think that's where I'll do some fun mark making stuff that unfolds. So here's where I'm just gonna grab some shapes. There we go. And when I put this in the photo editing software, I tried to get some good darks and light shadows and probably could have pulled out a few highlights. When illustrators work this way, they'll sometimes break a photo down into a lot of different layers. So they'll do like a highlight layer, a middle layer, a super dark layer, so that they can separate it out into more complexities. Just really trying to find these shapes. Again, this has gotten a little more gestural, a little looser. See what we got. Yeah, I'll see if I can find a little something. Uh-oh. Okay, Henry, I'll be right there. Okay. Oops, I'll be right back on the video.